15 years now, GALEO has continued on efforts to increase civic engagement and leadership in the Latino community. Since 2004, the Georgia Latino Vote campaign has seen a substantial growth Latino voters and has continued to work tirelessly to build and strengthen the Latino electorate in Georgia with amazing results of high voter participation. GALEO also celebrated a successful 2018 legislative session along with the collaborative work with other organizations in the coalition. GALEO helped defeat 14 anti-immigrant bills.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jennifer Zenteno Pearce. I am GALEO's Executive Associate and part of this year's 2018 Institute for Leadership. More importantly, I represent one of the millions of dreamers in the country through what is known as Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. My passion of serving the community grew out of my mother pushing me to be involved in volunteering when I was 16 at the Latin American Association, where I got the chance to meet Eli Velez, who was a big part of planting seeds early on in my life. And if I can sum up the feelings that I've had of the opportunities that I've had to serve and sometimes even lead, it would be simply lucky enough. And those three words come up for me because growing up undocumented, you also grow up watching your community be vilified. You grow up watching it being painted as the lowest of the low. And at times you begin to believe it. You begin to be disengaged, and for me, a lack of confidence in my abilities and my worth set in. And I share this story because growing up and watching a respected and prominent organization in our community like GALEO made me want to be a part of that change too. But I always felt like my capabilities came up too short. So earlier this year, I did something that was a little bit out of my box and a little bit adrenaline rushing for me. It was January 2nd, and I found that GALEO was looking to add someone to their team, and coincidentally to be a part of something that I was passionate about. But I didn't expect that life would challenge me to engage in a place where I had been too afraid to engage in before. And I was extremely nervous, like I am now. And I kept sharing with my friends saying, someone else more qualified, more engaged, someone else who isn't me will have this opportunity. So as you can tell, I'm also a really great part-time self-motivator. But here comes the adrenaline rushing part. I went for it anyways, because I knew that if I didn't, I would regret not standing confidently on my own 2 feet to be a part of something big that my previous mentors had prepared me to do. Not only have I had the opportunity to be a part of the GALEO staff, but also part of the Institute for Leadership. And these past few months have redefined what leadership looks like me personally and professionally. GALEO has empowered me to grow in how I see myself as part of civic engagement, advocacy, and leadership, in ways that if you had asked me before, I would have told you that I wasn't ready or capable. And I've noticed, and something that has been really comforting, is that a lot of the people that I'm learning from, they exhibit qualities of servant leadership, acting in humility, being centered in we and not me, fostering others to be leaders, cultivating trust, and valuing diversity. And once a month on Saturday, we get to learn a new way to push ourselves out a little bit further out of our comfort zones. And I take that back to work with me every day at the start of the week, finding new ways to put it all into play. Sometimes that means speaking up to share my ideas, writing to the congressional delegation for the first time, or something as simple as being confident in the space I have been entrusted to fill. But what has really marked my motivation when I feel doubtful has been those moments of encouragement when Jerry has shared his goal to be a part of cultivating my growth, or Maria reminding me not to sell myself short. So no, I may never get to be the first Latina president of the United States, but I am a Latina in the United States. One that has made it her mission, like many of you in this room, to invest in her community so that somebody else who looks like her has that opportunity to be a part of the table. And those times of being scared, of hopelessly watching your community be under attack, of feeling like you don't measure up, is over for a lot of us. And I feel extremely grateful and equipped to be a part of an organization that sees the importance in engaging in our leadership journey and helping us redefine the way we engage in our community and see ourselves. I look forward to completing the Institute of Leadership this year and having the opportunity to watch the impact that this leadership development program will have on future cohorts to come. It is through GALEO that I'm finding my strength to carry out to those big and courageous dreams I had long ago to change the world, and I'm more excited than ever to partake in that change with everyone in this room. So thank you for your encouragement and for your endless support.
Given the pace of news these days in our world, it's enough to overwhelm us with a mixture of emotions. Some good, and lately, some not so good. As a nation, at this very moment, we seem to be pulling ourselves at the seams, pulling ourselves apart at the seams. Our nation is sick, which is why we must take the time to take care of ourselves, reflect, but we must also prepare for action. As I contemplated the moment in time for today, we face serious polarization in our current state of affairs. Polar opposites present themselves daily in many, many ways. There's darkness, there's light. Speaking of darkness, just a few days ago, we heard comments from President Trump referring to undocumented immigrants as animals. The leader of the free world taking a concerted effort to further dehumanize our brothers and sisters. I don't know why I was surprised to hear this from this man. However, we must remember he has already shown us who he is, and we must believe it. We are not animals, Mr. President. We are proud people which has contributed much to this nation. While you got a military deferral for a bone spur, there were many Latinos who honorably served our nation with lots of sacrifice and even their lives. We are people which has contributed much to this nation and our world through art, through music, through culture, through science, and through politics. We are a proud people who rise every day to make this world a better place, just like everyone else. You, sir, do not know my people, and the orgullo, the pride, that we have of being being part of such a vibrant and diverse nation. Out of darkness comes some light. I see the promising faces of our immigrant brothers and sisters working hard every day, providing for their families. You see the faces of thousands of dreamers working hard to be part of our nation and wanting to contribute. Yet we have a Congress that holds back on a viable solution for those to move forward with their dreams and their aspirations. You heard Jennifer's story today, and that is the light that we see in that darkness. There's fear, hope. Many candidates recently have taken the position to promote fear of our immigrant community. We've seen several candidates for governor come out with ads making it seem like immigrants are causing all the problems that we have in the world today. They see us as criminals, rapists, and members of gangs. One candidate shows images of MS-13 gang members as he says he will be tough on, quote, criminal illegal immigrants that terrorize our streets. He vows action against sanctuary cities. Another one says he will round up immigrants in the back of his truck, encouraging vigilantism against our community, saying that he'll take matters into his own hands. Then he says mockingly, "Yep, I said that," knowing that he's just unleashed a racist dog whistle against our community on television. Not to be outdone, another candidate, which couldn't afford TV time, decided to refurbish an old bus as a deportation bus. I'm sure many of you have seen the national news of this racist political ploy. The ad and tactic were repugnant and disgraceful. But most of all, it was blatantly racist against Mexicans and immigrants in general. Well, as one of my Facebook friends noted, God doesn't like ugly. The racist bus did break down yesterday near Dalton, another vibrant community which is anchored by the Latino immigrant contributions to their economy. Furthermore, many of you may not know that the ad was also banned from YouTube because it was deemed to be hate speech. Then there is hate, love. We got reminded of some of the hate that exists in our nation. Just this month, 2 men who joined in white nationalist violence at last summer's Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, were convicted this week with separate jury trials for assaulting a black counter-protester. No, Mr. President, racists like these are not some good people. Racism is an evil that we must not tolerate nor encourage. It is that hatred that will tear our nation apart if we allow it. If we allow it and if we do not stand up against it. Which brings me to love. As I mentioned earlier during my remarks, there was a gubernatorial candidate driving around with his racist bus spreading his ignorant message. Community members in all of the scheduled communities rallied around and quickly organized counter demonstrations. And it was these demonstrations that they demonstrated love. Love for their communities, not wanting to be soiled by such repugnant political tactics. Love for their neighbors, their immigrant neighbors and their refugee neighbors and their Muslim neighbors that are a part of their communities. It was that people showing up with love for their community, standing up against the hate that essentially led to him not being welcome in their communities. So ladies and gentlemen, love in these communities is what stopped that bus. And I'm glad that it did break down yesterday in Dalton.
When you're in New York, in LA, in Miami, in Orlando, and there's many of us, uno puede ser checha y fuerte because there's so many of us. And we forget when there are less. I was asking Brenda, out of your 236 members, how many are Latinos? And she said, 2. Hay que tener pantalones y pantaletas, then to fight the fight. And you guys are doing that. And you have been doing it steadily over the last 15 years. And you will continue to grow in power, accepting new neighbors and increasing the Latino community. As more Puerto Ricans leave Florida, they're gonna come here. As they leave Puerto Rico, porque Maria has taken a hold of the island, they're gonna come here. And it is then our job to receive them, to help them, and to include them in a movement for political power so that you continue to increase representation and we continue to increase our numbers here in Georgia. So thank you for being here. For those of you like Jason and Jerry who have been at this for a while, de nuevo, cuando no habían millones de gente, congratulations to you for maintaining the movement alive.
I started to put together a completely original music score, never heard before, completely original, with a tight track. I'm gonna show it to you. Hit it. We're not throwing away our shot. We're not throwing away our shot. Hey yo, we're just like our country, we're smart, diverse, and grown, and we're not throwing away our shot. We are the Latino electorate here in Georgia at last. We're masked and we're grown. Problem is, we gotta get out and start voting. I gotta stand up to be heard, every word we get stronger. I'm here at GALEO with Jerry and Luis and all of you to change our nation. Fact is, my rapping game is not impressive. My tongue is getting tired, but I'ma stay progressing. Every voter with a disadvantage, we gotta get engaged. Get to the polls, make it a habit. We'll walk the streets canvassing. Plan is to grow and live without fear. But damn, I'm getting embarrassing up here, so I'll end it right here and spell out my name. Cristobal. Hey y'all, drop a beat. My staff, They warned me. They said, Cristóbal, they said, Cristopal, please don't do that. You have no talent whatsoever. And I said, what do you mean? They're like, you're going to embarrass yourself in front of your boss, in front of all these important elected officials, in front of Jerry, in front of all these donors. And I said, when else am I going to get a chance to do that? Of course I'm going to take my shot. After the disgraceful display of hatred in Charlottesville, Virginia, and the tragic death of Heather Hyers, I had about enough, right? That event, perhaps more than any other recently, has underscored the challenges that we all face and that communities of color face in this country that we love, that we work in every day to make better in our country. And like many of you, I've dedicated myself to advancing civil rights and pushing for our community and trying to increase representation, and trying to get to what our founders were trying to do in creating a more perfect union. But as I heard the chants, one people, one nation, and immigration, I'll be honest, I felt disillusioned, I felt demoralized, I felt a little bit like I did in November of 2016. And in the words of famous civil rights icon Fannie Lou Hamer, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? But there's a silver lining to every single cloud, and that's why I'm here today to share this story of how I was able to gain some perspective and how I was able to find some inspiration in our past and in our present. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. So last December, I became a new father to a little girl. Her name is Vivian Sol, and she's absolutely adorable, trust me. I should have put some pictures up here. We call her Baby Boss in our house. And she really is the baby boss. She's got her mom and her dad doing anything she wants and her grandparents. And I have no doubt that she's going to grow up to be this strong-willed Latina with a penchant for leadership, like Jennifer is. And she's already, in my humble opinion, on the right track to be a Latina United States president. But hopefully, she'll be the second or the third Latina United States president. Either way, I'm telling you, there's so many babies right now. 2036 is going to be a huge election cycle for us. We're already preparing for that. But fatherhood has really impressed upon me this urgency that you all feel, and that's in the room today, about growing Latino political power. And it's also imbued me with an appreciation of all that we've already achieved to get here. Thanks to all of your work, I feel like my daughter's generation is going to have this sense of optimism that I share now, and that together we'll be able to transform her future. Here's the last thing I want to say about tactics, the importance of leadership development. So after the 2016 election, there was a big march, big giant women's march all over the country, really all over the world. And in DC, thousands of women came in for this march, and we set up a training to find out who was interested in running for office and provide some much needed skills to folks who had never run before. And in this training, I met this incredible, fierce Latina named Elizabeth Guzman. She had moved from Peru 2 decades ago, and her son came to her one day after school and said, "Mom, are we gonna have to move back to Peru?" Mind you, he's never been to Peru. And it shocked her. And so she said, "Wow, I've got to do something. I'm gonna run for office." So she was going up against an extremely well-funded incumbent who'd been there for decades, backed by the most powerful interests in the state. And she did not give up. With a little help from Latino Victory and other really great organizations, she was able to win that election by a lot. And at the State of the Union address, she was offered by the Democratic Party this slot for the Spanish language rebuttal, which was incredible. Think about it. Here's this woman inspired because her son came to her from school asking if he had to move back. A few months later, she's on national TV offering the Spanish language rebuttal to the State of the Union. And seeing her example makes it very clear to us that we need to do far more leadership development work, far more work with GALEO and others around the country for the next Elizabeth Guzman. Now, before I'm ushered off the stage, I want to give another shout out, one more shout out to our Latinas. It's true, hermanos. Where would we be without these incredibly strong women who raise us, but are also the ones who are out voting us? I feel like this groundswell of Hispanics in the political process not only is driving our votes, but driving our leadership development work and candidate recruitment. In Texas, my home state, we had never had a Latina elected to Congress before. That sounds crazy, right? Because that's a quarter of our population is in that state. We've never had one. But what we saw in the first round of congressional primaries this year, and there's a bunch coming up, as you know, a bunch on Tuesday too, what we saw was all of these young Hispanics, Latina and Latinos, who saw for the first time the chance to make history and elect a Latina and broke all kinds of records. Now we're poised to have 2 Latinas represent Texas in Congress because both of them won their primaries. And as a result of that, we decided as an organization that it was time to launch a program called the Year of the Latina. It's a campaign where we go around the country supporting and backing incredible Latinas like Brenda Lopez. And we had an annual event, much like this event here called Latino Talks just a few weeks ago in Washington. This is where we bring together the political class, we celebrate our culture and our gente. And I didn't take the stage that day because instead what we did was have only women take the stage. And when I saw that at the end of the conference, at the end of the conversation, I saw the future there. And it made me very proud, and it made me think about my daughter and where we're going as a nation, and it gave me such optimism. So let me close by saying this. I mentioned earlier Mom Consuelo and the inspiration that she's been, and I remember when I was a little kid that she told me and my brother that if we worked really, really hard and we set our heart to it, we could achieve anything we wanted in this country. And I've always thought in my mind that that's what the American dream is. And those are the same words I'm going to share with my daughter, Vivian Sol, when she's old enough. And that's what inspires me today. And that's why I'm so grateful to be with you all today, because that's what we're doing together. That's the fight that this is all about. The American dream, fighting for opportunities, giving our kids the chances that we never had. And when we do that, when we come together, we fight together, we don't miss our shot. We don't throw away our shot. So thank you all so very much. Keep up what you're doing. Gracias.